I believed in love, family, and the power of truth. My life with Amanda seemed perfect to everyone, including me. We built our dream home, planned our future, and I never imagined the betrayal waiting behind closed doors. When I caught her with James, my coworker and supposed friend, I thought that was rock bottom. I was wrong. The false assault accusation that followed destroyed everything, and my reputation, my career, and even turned my own family against me without hearing my side. If you're watching this, let me know where you're from in the comments below, hit subscribe, and join me as I share how I lost everything only to rebuild something stronger. For 5 years, I thought I had it all figured out. At 32, I was a successful construction manager in Portland, Oregon, with a beautiful home-loving wife and the full support of my tight-knit family. My parents, Robert and Susan, had raised me and my sister Lauren to value loyalty and honesty above all else. These principles guided me through college, where I earned my degree in construction management, and through every step of my career as I climbed from site worker to project manager. Then Amanda walked into my life at a friend's barbecue 6 years ago, and everything changed. She had this laugh that could light up a room, and a way of making everyone feel special. As an elementary school teacher, she had infinite patience and a genuine care for others that drew me in immediately. We clicked instantly over our shared love of hiking classic movies and dreams of traveling the world someday. Our romance moved quickly but felt right. My family adored her from the first introduction. My mother and Amanda bonded over cooking, while my father appreciated her intelligent views on current events. Even my sister Lauren, who typically took months to warm up to my girlfriends, was planning shopping trips with Amanda within weeks. A year later, we had a beautiful fall wedding in my parents' backyard. Everyone commented on how perfect we were together, how our values aligned so well. Amanda and I purchased our first home in a quiet neighborhood not far from both our workplaces. We established traditions like Sunday dinners with my family, summer camping trips, and Christmas Eve movie marathons. I thought we were building something unbreakable. We had been talking about starting a family soon. Amanda seemed excited about the prospect of becoming parents, so I started taking extra shifts at work to save for our future child. We converted the spare bedroom into a home office that could eventually become a nursery. Everything seemed to be falling perfectly into place. The first signs of trouble were so subtle, I dismissed them entirely. Amanda began expressing dissatisfaction with our comfortable lifestyle, mentioning how her college friends were living in more exciting cities or traveling internationally. She joined a new book club that quickly expanded into dinner outings and weekend activities that excluded me. The late nights with colleagues became more frequent. When I called to check in, she would sometimes not answer, then text back hours later with vague explanations. Her phone would mysteriously flip over whenever I entered the room. The affection that once flowed so naturally between us grew strained with Amanda, often turning away from my embraces or claiming exhaustion when I suggested date nights. Like a fool, I dismissed my concerns. I trusted her completely and thought perhaps she just needed space or was going through a phase. I even wondered if it was somehow my fault for working those extra hours. Around this time, James Wilson joined our construction company as another project manager. He was charismatic, single, and seemed eager to make friends in his new workplace. I took him under my wing, showing him the ropes and introducing him to our team. We started grabbing beers after work, and I genuinely enjoyed his company. I thought I had found a good friend. One Friday, I invited James over for dinner, wanting Amanda to meet this new friend who had become such a positive presence in my workday. They seemed to get along well, though looking back, I can now recognize the lingering glances and unnecessary touches that I was too blind to see that night. I even confided in James about some of the minor concerns I had about Amanda's changing behavior, seeking advice from someone I thought was an objective third party. If only I had recognized the predator I had invited into my home. Our 5th wedding anniversary was approaching, and despite the recent tension, I was determined to make it special. I had ordered Amanda a custom necklace featuring the coordinates of the spot where we first met. When the jeweler called to say it was ready early, I decided to surprise her by taking the afternoon off. I still remember the moment clearly, the anticipation as I drove home, excited to hide the gift before our actual anniversary. The confusion when I saw an unfamiliar car in our driveway, the growing dread as I quietly entered our house and heard muffled voices coming from upstairs. My footsteps felt heavy as I climbed the stairs to our bedroom. The door was partially open, and through that gap, I saw my life shatter into 1,000 pieces. Amanda was in our bed with James, both of them so engrossed in each other they did not notice me at first. The memory still hits me like a physical blow. When they finally noticed me standing there, James looked shocked, scrambling for his clothes. But Amanda, my wife of almost 5 years, just stared at me with cold defiance as if I was the one who had done something wrong by coming home early. James pushed past me without making eye contact, mumbling something that might have been an apology. The front door slammed seconds later, leaving Amanda and me alone in the devastating silence of our broken marriage. "How long?" I asked, my voice barely functioning. "6 months," she answered without hesitation or apparent remorse. "It just happened, Morgan. These things happen in marriages." I stood there trying to process that for half a year, while I was working extra hours to save for our future child. My wife and coworker had been betraying me. Worse, they had clearly been laughing at me behind my back, as James had sat across from me daily, accepted my friendship, and even listened to my marriage concerns. "I want you to leave," I told her, struggling to keep my voice steady. Amanda's response chilled me. "This is my house too. If you cannot forgive a single mistake, then maybe you should be the one to leave." A single mistake that lasted 6 months. With my coworker in our bed, the anger finally broke through my shock. "I need space to think. I cannot even look at you right now." "Fine," she snapped, gathering some clothes into a bag. "I will stay with a friend tonight. But Morgan, you better think carefully about how you want to handle this. We have built a life together. Are you really going to throw it all away?" I did not answer, and she left without another word. I spent that night alternating between numbness, rage, and devastating sadness. I called in sick to work the next day, unable to face James or anyone else. I could not eat or sleep, just paced our house that suddenly felt like a museum of lies. Amanda returned the following afternoon, but something was different. She seemed almost smug beneath a veneer of vulnerability. As she set her bag down in the entryway, I noticed dark marks on her arm that looked like bruises. They definitely had not been there when she left. "What happened to your arm?" I asked, instantly concerned. "Despite everything." "Like you do not know," she said with a strange smile. "Listen, Morgan, I have been thinking about our situation. I want a divorce, but I want the house and half your retirement savings. What we will need to divide things fairly, but you cheated on me." "And what happened to your arm?" She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "Here is how this works. Either you agree to my terms or I tell everyone you did this to me when you found out about James. Your choice." The realization of what she was suggesting hit me like a truck. "You are trying to blackmail me with false abuse allegations." "Amanda, what has happened to you? This is not the woman I married." "The woman you married got tired of being second to your job," she hissed. "James appreciates me in ways you never did. So what will it be? My terms or your reputation destroyed? I will not be blackmailed," I said firmly. "If you want a divorce, we will handle it legally and fairly. But I will not admit to something I did not do, and I will not be threatened in my own home." Amanda grabbed her bag again. "You will regret this, Morgan. By tomorrow, everyone you know will see you for the monster you really are." She slammed the door on her way out, leaving me confused and afraid, but still unable to believe she would actually follow through with such a malicious threat. The knock on my door came at 7:30 the next morning. 2 police officers stood on my porch, their expressions grim. They asked if I was Morgan Williams, and when I confirmed, they requested to come inside to discuss a serious matter. "Mr. Williams, we are responding to a domestic violence report. Your wife, Amanda Williams, has filed a complaint stating that you physically assaulted her yesterday when confronting her about an alleged affair." My mouth went dry. "That is absolutely false. She was having an affair, that part is true. I discovered her with someone from my workplace, but I never touched her. The bruises she showed you, she did not have those when she left here." The officers exchanged glances. "Sir, we also have a witness statement from a James Wilson who claims he saw you exhibiting violent behavior toward your wife in the past and feared for her safety." The betrayal cut even deeper. They had planned this together, a premeditated attempt to destroy me. James had not just taken my wife, now he was trying to take my freedom. "That is a lie," I insisted, my voice shaking with anger and disbelief. "James Wilson is the man my wife was having an affair with. He has every reason to lie." Despite my protests, the officers informed me that a temporary restraining order had been issued. I was not to contact Amanda or come within 500 feet of her or our home. I had 30 minutes to pack essential belongings while they waited. In a daze, I threw some clothes and toiletries into a duffel bag, grabbed my laptop and important documents, and left the home I had lovingly maintained for years. As the officers escorted me out, I saw my neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, watching from her porch with undisguised judgment in her eyes. I checked into a cheap motel and then made the difficult call to my parents, hoping they would offer support or at least a place to stay until I sorted things out. Their reaction devastated me even further. "How could you, Morgan?" my mother cried through the phone. Amanda called us in tears. She showed us the bruises. "Mom, those bruises are not from me. I never touched her. She is having an affair with my coworker James, and they are setting me up because I would not agree to her divorce terms." "Stop lying," my father's voice boomed through the speaker. "We raised you better than this. A real man would take responsibility for his actions." "Dad, please. You have known me my entire life. Have I ever been violent, ever? Why would you believe her over your own son?" "Because we saw the evidence, Morgan. And because innocent people do not make excuses. Until you can admit what you have done and get help, we cannot have you in our lives." The call ended abruptly, leaving me alone with the realization that I had lost not just my wife and home, but my family too. Within hours, my sister Lauren texted me that she was heartbroken and never expected this from me. Extended family members unfriended me on social media. Friends I had known for years sent messages expressing their disappointment or simply went silent. The professional fallout came next. My supervisor called to inform me I was suspended pending investigation of the incident. Although he carefully noted this was not a presumption of guilt, his tone made it clear which side he had already taken. Over the next few days, I learned from a sympathetic coworker that James had been temporarily assigned to cover my projects in my absence. The betrayal had been calculated to benefit him professionally as well as personally. With no income, dwindling savings, and no support system, I watched helplessly as my life disintegrated around me. The community I had been part of for years had labeled me an abuser without a second thought. People crossed the street to avoid passing me. Former friends pretended not to see me at the grocery store. I felt completely alone, abandoned by everyone I had ever trusted, all because of a calculated lie told by two people who were supposed to love and respect me. A week after being forced from my home, I hit rock bottom. Sitting in that dingy motel room with its flickering lights and mysterious stains, I stared at my dwindling bank account and wondered if there was any point in fighting. Amanda and James had orchestrated the perfect character assassination. My family believed them. My colleagues believed them. Maybe it would be easier to just move to another state and start over carrying this undeserved shame forever. That night I barely slept. By morning, something had changed inside me. I remembered what my grandfather used to tell me: the truth may get buried, but it never stays that way. I decided then that I would not be driven away by lies. I would fight back with the only weapon I had left: the truth. I searched online for attorneys specializing in false accusations and found Diane Mercer. Her website mentioned several cases where she had successfully defended clients against fabricated claim. With my last shred of hope, I called her office and scheduled a consultation for that afternoon. Diane was not what I expected. Instead of the sympathetic hand-holding type, she was brisk and analytical. But most importantly, she listened to my entire story without interruption, taking detailed notes. "Mr. Williams, I believe you," she said, finally setting down her pen. "And more importantly, I think we can prove your innocence. But it will not be easy or quick or cheap. I do not care what it costs." I told her, newfound determination fueling my words. "I want my life back, and I want them to face consequences for what they have done." Diane nodded. "Then let us get to work. First, we need evidence that contradicts Amanda's timeline and account." Over the next weeks, Diane proved worth every penny of her substantial retainer. She suggested we check with neighbors for any security cameras that might have captured Amanda leaving our house the day of our confrontation. Mrs. Jenkins, despite her earlier judgment, had a doorbell camera that covered part of our driveway. After Diane explained the situation, Mrs. Jenkins agreed to provide the footage. The video clearly showed Amanda leaving our house carrying her overnight bag, walking normally, and showing no signs of distress or injury. Most importantly, her arms were visible in short sleeves with no bruises. The timestamp matched exactly with our argument timeline. Next, Diane subpoenaed Amanda and James's phone records. The text messages recovered were damning. Messages from the night before the accusation showed them discussing the plan and how to make the bruises look convincing. There was even a text where Amanda told James Morgan refused the deal. Time for Plan B. A breakthrough came when one of Amanda's coworkers from school contacted me. She had overheard Amanda bragging in the teacher's lounge about how she had fixed it so Morgan would pay for not accepting her terms. The woman had children in her class and was disturbed by what she perceived as Amanda's dishonesty and manipulation. She agreed to provide a sworn statement. Diane also arranged for a medical expert to examine photographs of Amanda's bruises. The expert concluded that the coloration and pattern were inconsistent with the timeline Amanda had provided to police. Based on the photos, the bruises appeared to be at least 48 hours old at the time they were photographed, not fresh from the previous day as she had claimed. Armed with this evidence, Diane filed motions to dismiss the restraining order and requested a formal hearing. The court date was set for 3 weeks later, during which time I continued living in motels, borrowing money from my 401k to cover legal fees and basic living expenses. The day of the hearing arrived with a strange sense of calm. I knew the truth was on my side, but after losing so much, I struggled to believe that would be enough. Amanda arrived with her attorney, looking confident and playing the role of the frightened victim perfectly. She avoided looking in my direction, staying close to James, who had come to support her. The sight of them together, so smug and certain of their victory, made my blood boil, but Diane placed a steadying hand on my arm. "Let them be overconfident," she whispered. "It will make what comes next even more effective." Amanda took the stand first, tearfully recounting how I had snapped upon discovering her affair, grabbing her arms and shoving her against the wall. She claimed to have fled in fear for her life. Her performance was convincing enough that I saw several people in the courtroom glaring at me. Then came cross-examination. Diane was methodical, first establishing Amanda's timeline with precise questions. Then she introduced the doorbell camera footage, playing it for the court to see Amanda leaving our home uninjured and calm. "Miss Williams, can you explain how you left the house without injuries, but arrived at Mr. Wilson's apartment with bruises?" Diane asked. Amanda stumbled over her words. The camera angle must not show them. They were there." Diane then presented the medical expert's testimony that the bruises in police photographs were not consistent with Amanda's timeline. Finally, she introduced the text messages between Amanda and James, reading aloud their plan to fabricate evidence against me. As Amanda's testimony crumbled, I watched her confidence fade, replaced by growing panic. When her coworker testified about the teacher's lounge conversation, Amanda broke down entirely, her carefully constructed story collapsing under the weight of evidence. James fared no better on the stand. Under Diane's relentless questioning, he grew nervous, contradicting his earlier statements to police. When confronted with the text messages, he attempted to claim they were being taken out of context, but could not provide a plausible alternative explanation. The turning point came when the judge, visibly disturbed by the evidence, interrupted proceedings. "I have seen enough," she stated firmly. "The restraining order is immediately dissolved. Furthermore, I am referring this matter to the district attorney's office for potential charges of filing a false report and perjury against both Miss Williams and Mr. Wilson." The courtroom seemed to hold its collective breath. Then the judge looked directly at me. "Mr. Williams, the court apologizes for the distress this situation has caused you. You are free to return to your home." Walking out of that courthouse, I felt the weight of accusation lift from my shoulders. Diane smiled as she shook my hand. "It is not over yet," she cautioned. "But this is a significant victory." The aftermath came swiftly. Amanda was placed on administrative leave from her teaching position pending an investigation into her conduct. The school board could not risk keeping a teacher who had demonstrably lied under oath. Within a month, she was terminated. James faced professional consequences as well. Our company had strict policies about workplace relationships that he had violated. Additionally, his participation in filing false reports reflected poorly on the company's reputation. He was fired 2 weeks after the hearing. I learned through mutual acquaintances that their relationship crumbled under the stress of public exposure and legal jeopardy. Without the shared goal of destroying me, they discovered they had little in common beyond betrayal and deceit. Both attempted to contact me in the months that followed, sending messages of apology that rang hollow after the devastation they had caused. I never responded. Some chapters are better left closed. Despite being legally cleared to return to my home, I could not bear to live there with all its painful memories. I sold the house and found an apartment in a different neighborhood, using some of the proceeds to pay off Diane's legal fees and the debt I had accumulated. Rather than returning to my former company, I decided to start fresh professionally as well. Using my industry contacts and experience, I launched a small construction consulting business. It was challenging at first, but word of my vindication had spread, and former colleagues who had believed in my innocence became my first clients. I also began rebuilding socially, though, with greater caution. I joined a hiking group and made new friends who knew nothing of my past trauma. I started therapy to process the betrayal and abandonment, learning to trust my instincts again while not allowing suspicion to poison future relationships. Slowly, I reclaimed my life, not as it had been before, but as something new and entirely mine. 6 months after the court hearing, my phone lit up with a text from my sister Lauren. It was the first contact from my family since they had disowned me. "Morgan, we saw the newspaper article about the court dismissing the charges. Mom and Dad want to talk to you. Please." The local paper had run a small piece about Amanda and James facing potential perjury charges, mentioning my complete exoneration. I had not thought about my family seeing it, too caught up in rebuilding my own life. I did not respond immediately, unsure if I even wanted to reopen that wound. The pain of their instant distrust had cut deeper than Amanda's betrayal in some ways. Family was supposed to be the one constant, the people who believed in you when no one else would. Lauren persisted, sending another text the next day. "We were wrong, all of us. I am so sorry, Morgan. Please give us a chance to make this right." After a week of similar messages, I finally agreed to meet them at a restaurant halfway between our homes. I chose a public place, intentionally uncertain of my own emotions and wanting the safety of neutral territory. The dinner began awkwardly. My parents looked older, somehow my father's confident demeanor replaced by hesitant glances, my mother's hands, fidgeting nervously with her napkin. Lauren tried to fill the silence with small talk that fell flat. We ordered food that none of us seemed interested in eating. Finally, my father cleared his throat. "Son, we owe you an apology. We failed you when you needed us most." "Why?" I asked simply. "Why did you believe her over me? After 32 years of knowing me, how could you think I was capable of violence?" My mother wiped away tears. "Amanda was family too. We trusted her. And when she showed us those bruises, crying, we just could not imagine she would make something like that up. But you could imagine I would hurt her." The hurt in my voice was palpable. "No," my father admitted. "That is why it was so shocking. We thought maybe you had just snapped. People do sometimes. We were wrong, Morgan. Terribly wrong." "We read about the court case," Lauren added. "About the evidence, the text messages, everything. Morgan, if I could take back every horrible thing I thought about you, I would." As they continued to explain and apologize, something unexpected happened. My father, the stoic former military man who I had rarely seen express deep emotion, broke down in tears. "I failed as your father," he said, voice cracking. "Parents are supposed to protect their children, to stand by them. I let you face the worst time of your life alone because I was too quick to judge. I do not expect forgiveness, but I need you to know how sorry I am." Something broke inside me then, not in a destructive way, but like a dam releasing. All the hurt, anger, and loneliness I had carried came flooding out. I told them exactly how it felt to be abandoned, to lose everything and everyone I loved in one swift series of blows. "I needed you," I concluded, my own tears finally falling. "And you chose to believe the worst about me without even hearing my side." There was a long silence after I finished speaking. Then my mother reached across the table and took my hand. "We cannot undo what we did," she said softly. "But if you will let us, we want to be part of your life again. On your terms, whatever those might be." I took a deep breath. "I forgive you," I said finally. "But rebuilding trust will take time. I cannot just go back to how things were." "We understand," my father nodded. "Just tell us what you need." Over dessert, I explained my boundaries. We would start with occasional dinners, not the weekly family gatherings of before. I would share details of my life when I felt comfortable doing so. They would respect my decisions without question, even if they did not agree. And most importantly, they would never again take someone else's word over mine without evidence. "These are fair terms," my sister said. "And Morgan, thank you for giving us another chance. We do not deserve it." "Family should be about second chances," I replied, "but also about learning from mistakes." The reconciliation process moved slowly over the following months. Our weekly dinners gradually became less strained as we found our way back to each other. My parents made genuine efforts to show their support, attending the open house for my new office space and referring potential clients my way. Lauren and I recovered our bond most quickly. She became my strongest ally, fiercely defending me to extended family members and friends who had believed the accusations. She helped me furnish my new apartment and introduced me to her circle of friends, several of whom became important parts of my new life. A full year after the false accusation, my life looked nothing like I had once planned, yet held a richness I had not expected to find again. My construction consulting business had grown enough to hire 2 employees. I had moved to a larger apartment, with a view of the river, a place with no painful memories attached. I had even begun dating Stephanie, a landscape architect I met through a professional networking event. Unlike previous relationships, this one moved slowly, with complete honesty from the beginning. I told her my full story on our 3rd date, and her compassionate response showed me the kind of partner I truly deserved. My relationship with my family had transformed too. The blind trust was gone, replaced by something more mature and in many ways stronger. We had weathered a crisis that exposed our weaknesses, but ultimately reinforced what family should truly mean: not unquestioning loyalty, but commitment to truth and love that survives even grievous mistakes. Occasionally, I still encounter Amanda or James around town. Portland is not large enough to avoid such meetings entirely. These moments are uncomfortable but no longer devastating. I acknowledge them with a brief nod, if necessary, then continue with my day, refusing to give them power over my emotions. The scars remain, of course. I am more cautious now, more aware of how quickly life can unravel. I still have nightmares sometimes about standing alone in that courtroom with everyone believing the worst about me. But these moments grow rarer as time passes. What I learned through this ordeal is that love must be built on truth, not blind trust. That family should question but never abandon. That strength often emerges only when we have been completely broken. And perhaps most importantly, that second chances are precious gifts, but they do not require forgetting the lessons of the past. Losing everything taught me what truly matters. Not the house or the career or even the relationship I thought was perfect, but my own integrity and the authentic connections that survived or emerged from the ashes of my former life. If you have ever faced betrayal or false accusations, I hope my story gives you courage. The truth has power even when it seems buried beneath layers of lies. And sometimes when life forces you to start over, what you rebuild can be stronger and more authentic than what you lost. If you have been through something similar, share your experience in the comments below. Like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and share it with someone who might need to hear that survival is possible, even after the worst betrayals. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that your darkest moment might be the beginning of your greatest strength.